Hey everybody, Jimmy the Alcoholic.
Hey, Jimmy.
All right, now we're on. Now we're on. I'm glad to be here. I'm from the Chicago group of Alcoholics Anonymous in Dallas, Texas. So before we get started on the intro to the 12 concepts for world service, if you're ever in Dallas, Texas on a Wednesday night, I would love to have you come and visit us. I think it's a great AA speaker meeting and 7 o'clock Central Time. And I'm thankful and honored that Chase extended the invitation to me. Now I know she's otherwise she's got another commitment tonight, but you make sure when you see Chase, either virtually or in person, you tell her that you sat through this 20 minutes and make her feel bad about it, right? So here we go. I've been praying about this talk. I have long exposure to all 36 principles in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm well aware that many of our fellow AA members approach this third legacy, which is what we know to be the legacy of service, that we approach it with some apprehension. Sometimes we actually approach it with a degree of fear. I think a lot of AA members at face value have been intimidated by the 12 concepts because the essays are certainly very detailed, and it really is those 12 spiritual principles, the 12 concepts, are a little different than the 12 steps recovery and the 12 traditions unity, because each one of those concepts, as you go through them, I think that you'll find that they're a group of related principles. So, whereas we think about the first tradition, our common welfare comes first, personal recovery depends upon AA unity, that really is a singular focus. But the first concept is going to talk about the fact that basically Alcoholics Anonymous, the world services of Alcoholics Anonymous, have all we have ultimate authority and final responsibility for that, right? You and me, all of us, and in its most basic form, these 12 principles that were penned by Bill over a period of years. Um, we had an old guy when I was delegate, a non-alcoholic trustee for us, who had been a clerk in a guy named Bernard Smith's law firm. And Bernard Smith, you'll find his quote, "Why we need a conference," in the front part of that secret service manual. And if you don't have a secret service manual, it's dark green now. Get one. And Byrne was an international attorney, and he really was, we call him the architect of, let's say, the legalese part. Bill brought the spiritual, Byrne brought the legal, and they attempted the best of their ability, and I think successfully, to merge those two things together because they have to coexist when we start talking about some of these parts that are involved in these concepts. But, here we go, early 50s, let's just say 1950, somewhere around there. We've been through explosive growth. The fellowship has adopted the 12 traditions. So certainly we've got the recovery thing solidified. Now we've got the unity thing solidified. And Bill's looking around, and, AA has grown thousands and thousands of percents since he and Dr. Bob met and Dr. Bob sobered up. And Bill said, "We got this board, we've got these trustees, and these trustees are making all these decisions on behalf of the membership of Alcoholics Anonymous." And he said, "I don't think that's going to work in the long term." One of the greatest gifts that Bill Wilson gave to Alcoholics Anonymous is the gift of vision. And Bill was looking out into the future and certainly imagining a continued period of explosive growth in this thing called AA. And he said, "Nobody's going to know these yahoos that are up here on this board. And they're going to make decisions about the public perception of Alcoholics Anonymous. They're going to make decisions about all these emerging structures around the world as AA continued to grow and foster recovery around the world. And so Bill, he went out to Wits End there at Stepping Stones, and he started thinking. And when Bill started thinking, he said, here's what we need. We need self-governance. We need Alcoholics Anonymous and members of Alcoholics Anonymous to be in charge of Alcoholics Anonymous. So, when I identified myself shiny penny new as a member of AA, I had absolutely no idea about my inheritance, which really is the future health and well-being of the movement, right? Old timers in my part of the world would talk about these 36 principles, and they'd say, the 12 steps prevent suicide. The 12 traditions will prevent homicide, but the 12 concepts will prevent genocide. So the health and well-being of the movement, right? Heady wine, certainly for people that are new in sobriety, but we've got people that, have been around a long, long time who have said, that's the business of AA. That's the business of AA. Well, here's the deal. Bill gave AA to you and me. And when he did it in a formal sense, he did it through these 12 principles that you guys are about to embark upon studying, talking about, asking questions around what does that mean, or is that really the way that works? When he first really got to the point of actually saying that the conference was going to come into being, which predated the writing of these principles by about 10, 11 years. Old Burn Smith, they were sitting at his law firm. According to Michael Alexander, Bill made Burn Smith a drink. And they sat down, they were talking about the future of AA. And Burn said, if you're going to do this, you need to understand the scope of what you're about to do. And Bill said, well, I just won't be a trustee. And Burn said, no. What you need to do is you need to give up all of AA, right? You certainly have input. You certainly have experience. You certainly have a wealth of knowledge around this movement, but we've got to grow new leadership. So be aware that whether you get 5 minutes out of an hour each week or not, we're growing new leaders in Alcoholics Anonymous as you study these principles. And they're not complicated. Grab the 12 Concepts Illustrated pamphlet. It's got some great kitschy mid-century artwork in it. So it actually has good pictures to go along with the text. And it takes all these essays, sometimes pages and pages, and it brings them down into snackable form. So you just read 2 or 3 paragraphs and identify the underlying spiritual principles that are supporting each one of those things. But it basically works like this in a nutshell. Bill gave AA away to you and me. He knew that all of us, we couldn't make those decisions in our respective home groups. Think about your own experience as a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. If y'all leave that room tonight, 5 of you want to go to dinner, how long will it take you to decide where in the world you're going to go to dinner? Oh my gosh, right? It'll be breakfast time before you figure out where you're going to go to dinner. So we knew that was unwieldy. So as you go from concept 1 to concept 2, you're just going to see that there's a delegation of responsibility, right? We still hold the ultimate authority. We don't ever give the ultimate authority away. The membership of AA has all the authority and all the responsibility, but we delegate that, right? Just like you delegate responsibilities and some degree of authority in your own home group. Tanya has been delegated some authority tonight. She's serving us. If Tanya's a good, trusted servant, just like what's identified in the concepts, if Tanya's a good, trusted servant, she feels the weight of the fellowship tonight. From 7 to 8 o'clock, she feels the weight of the fellowship. And she doesn't feel the weight of the fellowship as something oppressive. She feels the weight of the fellowship as enveloping. She's learning a little bit more about how to listen as if she has no opinion. She's learning a little bit more about AA moving at the speed of trust, which is the way we've always executed anything that's been of real value to Alcoholics Anonymous. And every single one of those things is part and parcel of these 12 spiritual principles that you guys are going to expose yourselves to over the course of the next few weeks. In 1955, it's the 5th year of the General Service Conference, and we approved the structure, the conference structure. We didn't have the concepts in writing, but we approved the structure. And as with so many things in AA, just like with the traditions, right? They were born on the anvils of AA experience. We realized that we had a push and a pull between these different quote unquote pieces of AA, right? And what we needed to do is we needed to identify when you needed to check with your higher authority and when you didn't. So every single one of these things absolutely depends on the second tradition. Nobody drives by mandate in Alcoholics Anonymous. And why do they not? They attempt it, right? But it's exhausting. Alcoholics won't be driven. We weren't driven when we drank, and we're certainly not going to be driven when we sober up, right? But we build leadership. We grow leadership in Alcoholics Anonymous. They don't drive by mandate. They lead by example, right? Bill talks about the highly valuable experience of the past. You guys are going to expose yourself to this highly valuable experience of the past. You're actually going to come away and be interested about who your trusted servants are at the lower levels of service. Don't leave the room tonight without knowing that when you came in and identified yourself as a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous, you were at the top of the mountain in AA. You're at the top of the food chain when you're a sober AA member and a member of a home group. In some of these groups, probably not yours, when you go to the bathroom, you get elected the GSR, you move down, not up. I hear so many times in Alcoholics Anonymous, people talk about, well, the people in the area, those people. Well, those people are all working for you. And you participated, whether you knew about them or you didn't know about them. And they all got elected, right? So whatever goes on in Area 6, there are things that really require that you have some degree of skin in the game. We can't have an informed group conscience when we only have marginal participation. And the 12 concepts help to build our interest. The 12 concepts really help to show us in a first-person way that we are shareholders in this thing called Alcoholics Anonymous. And the more that we learn about the society to which we belong, the more effective sponsors we can be, the more effective home group members we can be. I think we have a healthier and a greater respect for how these spiritual principles guide us, that keep us certainly right-sized. We can't really imagine anybody assuming that they could have some control or power in Alcoholics Anonymous. Not one person, but collectively we do, right? When we gather together, we have all the power that we need. And the concepts tell us how that power balances out, right? Please, before next week or the Concept 1 meeting, in the service manual, and if you don't have one, you can find it on aa.org, familiarize yourself with the conference charter, maybe the most important service document in Alcoholics Anonymous. It's an easy read. It was approved at that meeting in 1955 when we said that the board was just a legal entity, but the decisions needed to be made by members of the fellowship acting through their elected representatives, right? Read the conference charter. It's the spiritual handshake. It's how Love and Service is able to trust their elected representatives, both directly and indirectly, right? You guys have a trustee, right? Serves the fellowship as a whole, but certainly in an almost direct sense, is directly accountable to you as an AA member, wherever you happen to be, Northern California, Southern California, Texas, wherever, right? And those trusted servants, in order to be the most effective tradition two members that they can be, they need to feel the weight of their constituency. They need to hear from their people, right? They need to know what's working in Alcoholics Anonymous and perhaps what's not working so well in Alcoholics Anonymous. And the concepts give us the parameters for how all those different pieces are going to work together. So we have sitting delegates that are going to go to the conference in April that have never read the charter. So get a one up on some of those delegates, right? Familiarize yourself with that piece of material and know that that really is the spiritual document, because the conference is not incorporated, right? But we've got these three boards that are. One of the most wonderful things about AA is the very first part of the bylaws of our General Service Board contains the 12 steps. And the very next part contains the 12 traditions. And the very next part contains the 12 concepts for world service. And it directs legally every member of the Board of Trustees to exercise every legal right that they have in order to defend those principles legally, in order to make sure that those principles are not in any way altered, transformed, misinterpreted, and that's a legal construct. From a spiritual perspective, you and I know that the reason that this service structure needs to exist is because of the unwieldy nature of the sheer number of members of Alcoholics Anonymous. So by the time you're in the second or the third concept, week 2 or week 3, you're going to know what a DCM, what a DCMC is, and who those people are, and why they're directly accountable to you and your group. You're going to know who your area delegate is. I'm over here in Texas, and I know who your area delegate is. That's not right. Y'all should all know who your area delegate is, and know where that delegate is, and know where these amorphous meetings are that are going on about all that stuff. Know who your trustees are, and know why they're directly accountable to you. When you get to the 12th concept, just like when you got to the 12th step, just like you understand the nature of the true spiritual nature of humility by the time you're engaged in the 12th tradition, you'll know that Bill just basically puts a capstone on these concepts, and he provides us with these 6 fundamental, I'm going to call them directives, that basically assure that Alcoholics Anonymous never has governance, that no AA member is ever put into authority over any other AA member, that we understand what prudence, the word prudence, means in Alcoholics Anonymous, both with our finance and with our actions. And we understand that we don't have to be all glitz and glamour and outwardly showy. It's all about what we carry around, each one of us inside in the recovery program, what we've done with one another to form up as groups. You look around the room and you say, my gosh, some of these people I wouldn't go to dinner with unless I absolutely had to, but I love sharing a home group with those people, right? It's part and parcel of membership in AA. And so that third legacy of service, this third set of these 12 concepts for world service, they operate spiritually in exactly the same way as the steps in our individual lives, traditions in our collective lives as members of AA. And all we're doing is just expanding our knowledge and appreciation and really level of accountability, and perhaps learning a little bit more about what true leadership looks like, feels like, and acts like when we're sober members of AA. Those old time sobriety guys said, all we want you to do is leave Alcoholics Anonymous a little bit better when you leave it than you found it. And these 12 concepts can help certainly a guy like me put that into practical application. So I hope this has not all just been like Charlie Brown, wah, wah, and just know that these things are not complex, and there are a wealth of resources to help you understand and determine why they exist and how we all have really an integral part in making sure they remain effective and really remain adhered to. I'm out of time, but I want to tell you, I spent 4 years on your general service board. I was indirectly your trustee, and certainly AA survived. But when I first went to orientation in 2019 to New York as a brand new trustee with years of sobriety and really a lot of seasoned experience in AA, I studied these concepts. I read these essays 50 times because I was sure there was some kind of pop quiz when you got up there to New York or they'd kick you off the board. And I need to let you know that in the 4 years that I served as trustee, I may have heard direct reference to the 12 concepts for world service. I could count them on the fingers of two hands. And I'm going to tell you, as an AA member, I am beyond excited that you guys would take time, space, airspeed, and altitude in order to study what y'all are about to study. So thanks for inviting me in, and take care.